Cool. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this talk on exploring tech through communities. I'm very happy to be here, even though I would love to see your lovely faces in person. I have to admit that being able to speak to folks across the globe is one of the things that I've been enjoying the most in the last few years. I heard there's a ton of different people here, and I'm very excited that you folks are here joining us as well. In terms of, imagine I've been able to attend multiple events now, and every time that I go to a big event such as this one, I'm just surprised how flexible and scalable online communities and online events are. I've been able to talk with folks with 4,000 people in the audience, which is basically talking to a stadium. So that's pretty cool to have you all here in one single space. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be going through in this short talk about exploring tech through communities. And what I want to do with you all is, let's talk about what's GitHub's role in the industry. What does building a career mean? How you can use Git and GitHub to reach career goals. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can take all of these three topics into exploring and into building communities in tech that will help others to learn and also will help you to reach your career goal. Before we start, my name is Juan Pablo Flores, and I'm a program manager at the GitHub education team, where I have the honor to work every day with student community leaders in a program that you might know called the GitHub Campus Experts. I also manage a couple of other student programs and a couple of other projects that we have within GitHub Education. And you can find me across the internet as Juan P. Flores, so don't hesitate to reach me out through socials if you have any questions during or even after the workshop. Now, before moving forward, working education is a lot of fun. We get to attend hackathons, conferences. In a previous world, we used to visit colleges, and the most interesting thing is that we get to meet students who are doing amazing work with projects and events that have a genuine interest to improve the technical level or the technical community within their college. If you think about it, GitHub Education has a key role in the industry. We are basically the front door for many people to become professional developers. And it is our jobs to support students like you to learn the skills that will help you have a smooth transition from the classroom to the industry. Now, right now is a very interesting time to be a developer. The amount of software that is being created will only grow exponentially in the next few years. The use of software is constantly growing across multiple industries, even outside of technology, since it has become the mechanism to scale services and products that any organization will need. Here you can see a graph from our Octoverse report. And as you can see here, we basically measure how much software is growing in the percentage change year over year of pull requests and code pushes to the platform. And what we can see is not only that more people is pushing more code to GitHub, but also more people are collaborating on GitHub. So, and of course, in 2020, this also increased because of being at home and staying, being remote at work. Last year, digital transformation played a big role in all companies. We can talk about automation and how it allowed people to dedicate time to what it was important for them. We can talk about how the use of machine learning helped to build smarter software. Improvements in IoT allowed us to collect more data from more connected devices. And data science is basically helping to predict outcomes of global struggles like climate change. Against what most people would believe, building successful open source projects are maintained not only by one person, but rather by a community of people that play different roles within a project and are passionate about making tools or services that helps others. This thanks to the open source community that many of you are familiar with, and I hope that some of you are even part of, that the technologies that we are using in our everyday life is able to sustain. But in order to maintain this growth, it is fundamental that the open source community grows too. That means that we need more developers, we need more maintainers, and of course, we need more open source contributors. Use your attempt to be a developer, and some of the challenges that we've seen that students have that code contributions are important for their careers and would likely make them more relevant to get hired. And if you think about it, that's a very interesting barrier to know. It seems like even though a lot of folks know how open source contribution works, it's kind of like there's no clear pattern how to make a contribution. So at GitHub Education, that's a very interesting barrier. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about, let's understand code in a very different way than we usually would do. So let's start with the basics. Let's talk about what is GitHub role in the industry. And a couple of months ago, a very close friend of mine called Rourkela Hernandez, who is the CTO and co-founder of an edtech startup here in Latam, posted a tweet about his first interactions with GitHub and how people introduced him to the platform. He's not alone in the sense that even I was introduced to GitHub as the social network for developers. And that's pretty confusing when you join GitHub. I kind of believe that it allowed you to have close connections with some of the maintainers of open source software, which is kind of true, but the interactions don't happen in the same way that they happen in other platforms. If you come from a very old world where I come from, which is when Facebook was getting started, you probably would look forward to have DMs with people or chats or find some sort of way to have direct interactions. And GitHub it's more asynchronous in the way that you communicate with others. So let's go back and ask, what is GitHub? So every time that I ask this question, I hear that it's a great platform to store your code, upload projects, and collaborate with others. But there's also other answer we get, but this is ones in the screen are the ones that we hear most frequently. And I do believe that we should start looking at GitHub as in three main pillars. So GitHub has three main roles in the industry. One of them is code discoverability, which has to do with the ability to find projects others have created. So basically, this is you're able to search for other people's code repositories without having to move across multiple or different web platforms. The second pillar is collaboration. Pull requests and in general, the GitHub workflow has allowed thousands of developers to grow their open source projects by following a very simple workflow. And third is code distribution. If you're a creator of one or multiple projects, having a platform that allows you to distribute that code may help you to get this code in the hands of many more people than what probably you would have if you had them on your own website, which if you know a little bit about the story of how open source used to work, before you need to share a tarball, which was distributed through probably a project server or a project landing page, and code contributions were way harder to make. Now, let's go through a very simple example of how this looks like. So earlier last year, Jen Looper, Floor, and other Microsoft Cloud advocates worked together to build a series of code labs that students could use to learn the basics on how the web works. They collaborated and launched a repository called Web Development for Beginners. And then they distributed this code to anyone who wanted to have access to it. So the content of the repository is great. And as more people start to consume this content, also, and if you see the statistics here, this is a huge project considering the popularity of how many stars they have, how many forks they have, and how many people are actually watching changes. So the shift that we are looking forward to have, or that I do believe is interesting, is to, instead of thinking of GitHub repositories as pieces of code, libraries, and frameworks, which can confuse non-technical folks, we can think of them as pieces of content specialized for developers. And GitHub is a platform that helps to get this content out. Think about how open source has changed in the last few years. We have shifted from big monolithic projects to smaller and more atomic ones. Think about this as any kind of like written content, such as dev, also known as forum, since folks are writing very small pieces of content, but at the same time, it provides them with a platform to share thoughts, ideas, tips, and tricks without writing a very long blog post. And this is visible in the JavaScript community, where folks and developers are building very specific and atomic modules to do very particular tasks. Now, let's go to how you can launch your career with GitHub, but most importantly, and after we go through this, I can tell you how this all relates with your student community. There are three main components that anybody can have used from GitHub to reach your career goals, to get the job that you're looking for. And even some of the latest conversations that we've been having with students is that they are using GitHub as a way to prove their experience. So it's no longer only about building a very beautiful resume, but it's also now using your GitHub account to prove that experience, so that when a recruiter or someone from a software engineering role within a company gets interested about your profile, they can jump into your code and see what kind of projects you are interested in building, what are you motivated, and how do you work with your open source or with your projects. There are three easy steps that you can take to benefit from GitHub to launch your professional career. First of all is how you can build an identity. Second, you can show what you're working on. And third, contributing back to the community, which has to do with demystifying the contribution process and set you up for success. Now, building an identity, I know some of you folks already have a GitHub account. I hope all of you do. But when you jump into a GitHub profile, you basically see something like this. Now, on the left side, we have JuanpaBot, which is basically a bot that helps me do GitHub Campus Expert stuff. So I'm a single human being, and I need robots to help me out with some of the work that I need to do. And on the other side is a very amazing developer called Edward Thompson, who is a product manager for NPM here at GitHub. Now, when you're starting to build a profile in GitHub, there are a couple of interesting parts in the GitHub profile that you can see here. One of them is, please have a good profile pic. When you create a GitHub account, normally you will get this kind of like very pixelated alien thing. So having a cool profile pic, or a profile pic about yourself, or any other way that you would like others to see yourself, is very useful, not only for recruiters, but also for open source maintainers to kind of like understand who is the person behind that contribution. I think a very small brief is amazing. Remember to add links. So here, for example, we have, I don't know, your personal website. And this is very cool because you can use GitHub Pages to build a personal website without having to pay a penny for it. And would highly recommend that you would add to this GitHub page some extra information about yourself, kind of like a resume and details about your work. And you can also add your Twitter account and where you're currently at. It's not mandatory, but I would highly recommend, if you're a campus expert, in the section that says highlights, you will have a very beautiful badge that says you're a campus expert. But most importantly here, people will get to know more about what are you involved with. The Arctic Code Vault is something that most people would have right now, or that I would expect that if you make any open source contribution, no matter how big or small it was, your code is now in a vault in the Arctic, being stored to avoid future, problems with your code disappearing. Last but not least, organizations are a great way to know in which projects you're involved. Edward is an awesome human being and has many orgs, but as a student, no one expects you to have this huge number of organizations that you belong to. But if you don't currently have one, you can create your community org on GitHub and provide more visibility, not only to the work that you folks are doing, but also to other members of the community to have something to show off here. So let's say that HackNITR has its own organization. It would be very cool that you folks could join so that people would know that you're involved with this organization. Other cool thing about your GitHub profile is you can create a GitHub README or profile README where you can share information about yourself with the community on GitHub. And basically, this README is shown at the top of your profile page. You decide what information to include in your profile README so you have full control over how to present yourself on GitHub. Some examples about these, we've seen people who write an About Me section. We've seen students who are also adding which projects they have contributed and that they're proud of, and guidance for getting help in communities where you're involved. So for example, in my case, I'm currently working on a Juanpa manual where people can know how to reach me out, what are my working hours, and which kind of projects I'm interested in, and how they can reach out to me to give a talk. So profile readmes are very cool because you can do anything you would like to, and there are some extra or additional features you could add with GitHub Actions to it. Now, some of my pro tips for anyone who's building a GitHub profile is to ask yourself, what is your goal with your profile README? And think about what you want to do. Do you want to inform people about the work that you're doing? Are you looking for a job? And if you're looking for a job, you need to reverse engineer your GitHub profile so that the recruiter will see what they want to see, which probably sounds a bit weird, but when you are on the other side or you are recruiting people, this is basically reading what you would like to read from someone who is applying for a job. Then choose who is your audience. So we already talked about recruiters, but you can also have other open source maintainers. You can have students. So the audience is very broad. And I would highly recommend you to craft a statement on your profile. So there are 4 questions that I normally ask people. So what do you do? Who do you do it for? Why do you do what you do? And what value do people get from engaging with you? And you can see this in some of these other examples that we have here, where on the left we have Kaneko, who has a very minimalist README. So you get everything that you will need in a very short amount of content. And on the other side, you have a maximalist, which is Abhishek. Abhishek has a very cool repository on cool profile READMEs. So you can see him. He has kind of like these much broader narrative story that he tells people. He even uses GitHub Actions to tell you where or how he is spending his time on in different programming languages, and that's something that you can totally do with your own profile README. So you don't need basically to code anything. There's already some GitHub Actions built in for you that will help you out with that. And now let's go with the last part, which is how can you contribute back to open source? And this is where things get funny, because I know a lot of you may want to do these contributions or contribute to open source, but probably you haven't found a way to do so. Now, let's start with demystifying what a contribution is. And I really like this graph from, again, the October's report, where you can see how different people, in terms of experience, do different roles within an open source project. Contributions can be done in a variety of ways, and here you can see all the ways that you can contribute back using GitHub. I would add an extra one, which is sponsoring a project, but at the time that the October's report was published, we didn't have a lot of data on how sponsorship were working. But if you're new into open source maintainers, into open source, you can. We've noticed that a lot of people do push code, but what is kind of like more interesting is that most folks with follow users, they would fork repositories, they would create a request, a pull request, they would start repositories, create issues, close issues, comment on issues as well. And on the other side, you can see that veteran open source maintainers, which is basically the maintainer of the code repository, what they normally do is they clone and fetch the repository. Let's go a little bit deeper into that, because it's not very clear from that graph how you can contribute back. So overall on GitHub, if you can create as a newcomer to open source, creating issues to kind of like ask to add new features, to report bugs, also commenting in issues, kind of like to something that we've noticed a lot is people opening issues but not having enough detail on how to replicate the bug. So if there's a project that you're very familiar with, you can jump into the issues and try to get all the information that an open source contributor or the maintainer would need to solve that bug. Helps a lot to allow the maintainer to dedicate their time into what is important, which is most of the times review pull requests and even push code. And we see very similar behaviors in multiple open source projects like Python, TensorFlow, and in the case of kind of like COVID analytics that were a huge trend last year, each of them have kind of like their own way of working or showing activity depending on the experience of the open source or the person kind of like getting involved with it. So generally speaking, some paths that we recommend is get familiar with the project, and that this has to do with if it's a project that you really like that you've used in a couple of projects, so you can start getting involved with the project itself. Open comments on issues, comment on pull requests, create pull requests, review pull requests, and normally when you've done all of that, you will feel more comfortable about pushing code to this repository. Now, in the case of the project that we talked before, what we saw that happen a lot is that folks would contribute back to the web development for beginners repository once they have finished all of the modules that they went through. So now, after you've used the repository, you can add or contribute back, and that has a lot of different ways. One of them is folks start to open issues, they start reviewing PRs. And we also saw that folks were doing code contributions like translation to different languages, which is extremely valuable to make the code distribution part more accessible to anybody. Last but not least, that would mean that then the team of the Microsoft Cloud Advocates would need to maintain the code, so you can also get involved in that section. Now, think about getting your workout. And what this has to do is many times we don't do things because we kind of like are scared about pushing code to an open source maintainer and we might get criticized. And something that I learned from interviewing a lot of open source maintainers and a lot of people who are actively contributing to code is they just put it out there. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect, if the code is not super optimized, just helping out and adding new features, helping out and making those translations, even though if they are not extremely perfect, can help you to start getting involved in getting your work out. And this is something that happened to me while I was doing research. So many years ago in 2017, I started to do research. And we published a paper called How Deaf People Might Use Speech to Control Devices. And we built this paper in a couple of days. Then I published one of the papers that I'm most happy about publishing, which is Audience and Streamer Participation at Scale on Twitch in 2019, which is a paper that took me a couple of years to write. And what you can see, the numbers that says 24 and 2 is kind of like how many citations that paper has. And the one that took me 2 days that I didn't believe was going to make it has 24 citations. And the one that took me 2 years that I overthought everything in the process has 2 citations, which is kind of like sad for the second one, but it's extremely good for the first one because we did publish a paper that has a lot of citations. 24 citations is quite a lot. And now let's go to the cool part, which is understanding your career as a Lego, and then understanding how you can build your Lego with other folks. Think about your career as, and we're going to be concluding with this. It's already a lot of time, but think of your career as if you were building a Lego. When you build a Lego, you can like know what the end figure will look like. And if you think about it, you get two things every time that you buy a Lego. You get a ton of different pieces, and you get a set of instructions on how to build it. And then you take both and you start working on it to have the end product, which is kind of like this physical Lego that you can use to flex it on your live stream. Their own set of pieces. There are additional pieces that will make your Lego be unique and outstand from other Legos that people might be building. So here you can see hackathons have their own pieces. So I would say attending at least one hackathon as a student will open your world to kind of like knowing that creating an app is not kind of like super hard, but it's actually something that you can do as a student. Getting involved with different projects. I would say internships are so cool, not only because they provide you with a stipend every month that can help you pay with your bills, but also because in terms of experience, it is eye-opening to be able to work with professionals that are building the products and the programs that you folks are probably using. And last but not least, volunteering in different projects, even outside of code, I would say is one of those very cool pieces that you can get as a student. Now, there are several problems with education in general, and one of them is that not everybody has access to the same learning resources. So even though everybody can be studying for a CS role or as a computer engineer, even within the same city, different schools would have different access to different resources. And what that means is that not everybody has the same accessible pieces to build the Lego. And probably some people might be missing pieces to build a fulfilling career. And in terms of the guide, there's also a possibility that you're missing pages. And that would not allow you to build a Lego following the instructions, but rather you would need to find other ways to build that, even though you do it on your own or you look for someone who knows the missing pages. And that's why community is so important. The cool thing about tech and communities is that resources and Lego pieces can be shared without losing them. So if you have one of those pieces that are very valued, let's say, you know, machine learning, and one of your friends want to learn machine learning, but they don't have kind of like that machine learning piece, you can share with them that knowledge or that Lego piece without yourself losing that piece, and helping others to start building a better Lego before they graduate. Now, also working with other students is great in a sense that building a Lego on your own is fun, but building a Lego with others is even funnier. So getting to work with other people with different backgrounds can tell you about how you can build a Lego in different ways and can show you pieces that probably you were not aware of. And that's why tech and communities are so important. And luckily enough, we are in an industry that welcomes everyone without a particular background or a particular profile. Our industry in particular is very open to have conversations, and it's an industry that really much likes to share knowledge. So you should take advantage on that. And just like the organizers of HackNITR are here working a couple of months to organize these events, you can also get involved and help others to get to have these kind of like experiences. So we already talked about these. So let's talk about how you can use GitHub Education to get additional pieces. One of them is the Student Developer Pack. If you were not aware of, the Student Developer Pack gives you more than $200,000 in benefits. So see it as a massive gallery of premium Lego pieces that you can get for free. If you want to learn how to code a website, how to have a payment center on your well, a payment thing on your website as well, or if you just want to start your own startup, you have everything that you will need with the student developer pack, and you can only have access to it while you're a student. So I would highly recommend not to miss these more than 200 pack partners that we have right now. You get access to Canva for free. So if you're into design, you also get that for free. You get front-end masters for free as well if you want to learn how to do web development. If you're into data, you get Data Camp for free as well. So there's a ton of different benefits that you get. Also, we are streaming every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time in something that we are launching called the GitHub Campus TV. We talk about internships, how to clean your LinkedIn profiles with LinkedIn staff, and we even play Among Us with GitHub staff on the stream. So it's a lot of fun, but also there's a lot of really cool people that we're inviting to share their experiences. Now, before we go, I want to remember that what you build as a student in this Lego will become part of a broader artifact in the industry. And what we need is to add more diverse pieces to this gigantic Lego called the tech industry, and make sure that these pieces are visible. Joining with a group of like-minded students is a great way to learn new skills. And this is why communities play such an important role in your college life. But this only works if everybody has access to the learning resources. As community leaders or community members, make sure that your community is welcoming for people from all walks of life, different backgrounds and skill sets. Reach out to underserved groups within your college and invite them to be part of events and activities. So go now, start building these pieces together, but most importantly, have fun while building the Lego of your career. Thank you so much, and that's all that I had for you all today.
Thank you so much, Juan. Actually, really grateful. I actually requested him to talk about this topic, especially exploring tech through community. Students, we actually got a lot of requests from students, basically the ones who are starting out. It was a really great analogy with the Lego pieces. People are trying to build that final Lego, and here are these useful pieces which you can try to get the final picture. That was really interesting and inspiring. Thank
The
you so
problem that I
much.
see is that I guess careers are seen as this very complex thing, and tech is, again, using that buzzword, like it's very mystic how you can build a career that will be successful. But by using the Lego analytics, you can see that it's not so much that you need to learn super deep things about a particular topic, but it's something that you start building little by little to get that experience that you will need to have a fulfilling job or a fulfilling career.
Yeah, precisely. If you narrow down your problem into just one Lego piece at a time, instead of getting overwhelmed by the big structure which already have kingdoms and palaces which people have already built, I think that is a very useful and possible approach. Thank you so much, Juan. And yeah, GitHub education stream are happening Tuesdays, and I don't think I've told you, but we and Fennel, we got lucky and we got to be the part of GitHub stream programs. So you folks will be seeing us soon on some day. Hopefully, at least has some updates for us.
Yeah, right now we only have kind of like 1 or 2 streams a week, but we are launching a new program within Campus Expert that will help folks to get resources and make amazing streams with GitHub education. And I see you're part of those groups that got into the team. That's so cool.
Yeah, GitHub always have given us a lot of opportunities as students. It's really empowering to see GitHub doing a lot of stuff just for the students. It feels so awesome. Okay. Okay, we'll wait for some questions. If you folks have any questions, this is your opportunity. You could either talk to the HornPub bot or you can talk to him right here.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen. I don't think people would need to see that screen anymore.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, HornPub is a work in progress. It's very cool to have a bot doing your work.
I've seen it. It's really cool. I hope it manages a lot of stuff for you and just lower down the load on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a question, I guess.
Okay.
So
Yes.
if you want, I can read it. How to choose your organization for the first contribution as a beginner, which is the right place to start? That's a great question. there are multiple communities that I really like. One of them is Eddie Hub. Eddie Jauda has been doing an amazing work to teach the students how to contribute to open source and how to code. So looking for Eddie Hub is one of those. The other good way to get started is if you already are coding using a particular framework or a particular I don't know, library, you can jump into the. I don't know if you folks do this, and I would love to know more if you do this, Harish and Vedant. When I run into troubles with any kind of like open source library that I use, I jump into the source code and see why I'm having that problem, so that I can understand probably if probably I'm sending a data type that I was not supported. So, do you folks do that? Like, do you jump into the source code?
Yeah, lots, almost
okay.
every time. I personally do that.
Yeah,
because it
I
gives us
usually
a
find my answers
insight.
from documentation.
Oh, sorry, folks. We can start with Vedant and then with Harry.
Yeah, so like one of the things many times it happens that the documentation is not very clear or is not actually serving the purpose to what our aim is to utilize that particular function. Or so I browse through the GitHub repositories and their source code to try and understand that what was the objective behind that implementation of functions, or what were the exact parameters that are used, going through the comments and the doc strings to know more about how to use them actually in my project, or to modify them as per my need.
Yeah. How about you, Harish?
I guess I get lucky with documentations and discussions. There was this one time I can remember where I went to the node modules folder and going through the sources, but something which has helped me a lot is the active pull request. I mean, the closed pull request discussions, or the issues where people actually converse and came to that solution, which actually gives us a picture of us, some people who have gone through the same situation, and we can easily narrow down. Okay, this is where we're going now.
Yeah,
So
and you can also learn. You can also learn what's the decision-making process. You can like add a new feature or solve an issue. So that's why my recommendation is jumping into the code repository of frameworks or libraries that you're using, because you're already familiar with them. And when you run into kind of like a struggle or an issue during the process that you develop, an app or whatever you're developing, if you go to the repository, you can solve. For example, if it's not clear in the documentation, you can add some extra documentation about that function so that other people don't run into the same problem. So that's why getting familiar with the code that you're using and the repository that you want to contribute to is so important. You already know the problem, you already know the library. It's just adding things that you think might be missing there.
Yeah, that is really true. Most of the times I feel that okay, I'm not that good enough to add a valid contribution to the existing frameworks, but this is something I realized. Mostly I would be working on a specific task and there might not be any useful guides to them, so that's how I start getting content for some of my articles at Server.
Yeah.
The Hacktoberfest validation API was one of that thing, and
I agree. Hacktoberfest is a great place to start as well.
Totally. That's where I made my first PR there.
Yeah, and DigitalOcean has made a lot of guides and just like blogs about how you can get started with coding. So Hacktoberfest has been doing an amazing work helping people to get involved with open source. I see there's another question here. What's your say regarding the GitHub dark mode? For me, everything's cool except that I'm not able to see the green boxes of contribution activity properly in the dark mode. I have to say, dark mode was one of those things that I waited for years, and we were kind of like we were in the we had the education stream during Universe, so we kind of like get the news before most of the team or most of GitHub staff would know about the launch of dark mode, and I was so excited. I have it on almost all the time. I really like it. Now there's a new mode that launched last week, so you can test that out. If you run into any problem with the green boxes of contribution, leave us some feedback on our support channels, and I'm sure like someone from the team is gonna be reading that and trying to make that more visible for you folks.
Yeah, totally. The 1 minute, or I don't. It was very less, but it was like a hell of a show, one hell of a show, and the GitHub satellite. So we love the updates, all the updates, the GitHub actions, dark mode, everything. Just loved it.
Yeah.
And folks, a quick thing: if you want to join the stage with us, I think Juanpa would be more than happy to take in questions in person. So, okay, we already have somebody. Okay, Ritesh. Hi, Ritesh. Hi.
I think
Hello, hello. I'm
Hey,
audible.
what's
Yes.
yeah?
Hey, cool. Like, okay, it's really great to have you here. It's just that GitHub has been really great, and I all like wanted to say is that going through that your own profile, like having that calendar go up green is the best feeling that I have had, and that's one of the things that keeps me going. So, kudos to the entire GitHub team.
I think that is something which people tend to flex it, all those screens showing flexing their contributions they have done throughout the year. And also, I love the
Yeah.
3D model which we were able to export out. I think that was really
Right,
of our
true.
contribution. That was really
Yeah. If you haven't seen GitHub Skylines, the skyline is beautiful. It has some amazing background music. I think it's skyline.github.com, and you can get a 3D view of your GitHub contributions.
Yes, that is true. Okay, and now that we're talking about GitHub events, GitHub Satellite India is happening 25th of
That's
March.
right.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that. Glad I remembered it.
GitHub Satellite was one of the best events that I have attended virtually. So, really looking forward for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People
and
were
oh yeah,
go.
the India team has been doing a lot of work to make a super cool event for all of you. It's the first time that we are having an India specific event as GitHub. So I would highly recommend all of you to attend. It is for free for you to attend. And we have an education track with Mo, who is the director of education here at GitHub. And she will be talking about new things that are coming for students. I don't want to spoil her talk, but she has some really good news there coming up in the future. And if not, you can also attend kind of like the GitHub Satellite, like the normal thing. There's a couple of really good talks. I would highly recommend attending 3 of them at least. Erika Breshka on the past, the present, and future of coding in India. I think how's this? How could I forget this guy's name? Well, the keynote of the second day is great.
I
Is
forgot the schedule actually. I was just looking at
was-
some time before.
let me see if I can get that.
Sure. And also, people definitely will love to have you. Ritesh is one of us, so he joined as a part of a team.
Yeah.
If anybody from the attendees wants to talk with Juan or just want to hang out and ask questions, feel free to raise your hand. We would love to have you here.
So it is Shankar Nijoki. He is a complete badass. He is the VP of product at GitHub. So would highly recommend to go through that. And then I think Manesh, who is the general manager for India, will have some closing regards on the second day at the end. So would highly recommend to go through at least those 3. There's a ton of content from Indian developers, Indian open source maintainers, and so would highly recommend to attend.
Yeah, we would definitely be there. I know I'll be there. I can't miss something like this. So, okay. I don't think there are a lot of questions over here. Let me check the chat real quick if we missed anything.
we've just got 100% response if people will be attending GitHub's next satellite session.
That is super cool.
Well,
Just out of curiosity, it's an off-topic question, but what exactly is your setup, sir? Because it looks so phenomenal, your entire webcam setup.
We just kind of like upgraded everything. I when we started the pandemic, I moved to a new house, so kind of like the only place that looks really nice like this is kind of like the office. But I got a JD microphone here, which I had when if you saw the papers that we published, I was working with Twitch before when Amazon acquired Twitch. I got a Sony A6600, which is a camera.
Yeah.
It's very nice, very nice. I'm surprised.
It's phenomenal.
And I got a Sigma 18 as the lens for the camera. I have a Cam 4 link. It's a fancy setup, man. It's a fancy setup.
I could totally flexing it. I could totally see it.
Cool.
Okay, I believe it's time to announce mini event winners since we don't have much questions, and now we have a guest. Okay, I see. Is that your dog on the back?
Yeah, that's Pascal.
Hi.
Yeah, he hides within the stream though, so he has been doing kind of like weird things live on stream. He has stolen plushies while I'm streaming, so
okay.
Yeah, I just adopted him a couple of months ago, so he's
That's
very happy here.
Feels like he's tired or something. Let him sleep. You want to disturb him.
Yeah, he always has his space on the stream.
Okay. Ritesh, could you please share your screen so that we can announce our mini event winners?
Yes.
And
sharing it right
we have Juanpa over here.
Here it is. Check up if you are up over here, people. Raise hand or feel free to chat.
Yep. So Juan, let me just brief about this leaderboard. So we had a lot of events and a lot of mini events. So what we did is, to encourage more people to participate in all of them, we associated points to each of these events. So there is this leaderboard, and people can participate and engage with us and climb up the leaderboard. And we thought of offering them some really good prizes. And the top two from this leaderboard would be receiving a GitHub t-shirt coupon, which is kindly sponsored by GitHub, and also Egghead coupon. And our winners would be. Ritesh, could you please zoom in? I can't see it.
Okay. I'll zoom in.
Yay. Okay, it's Sanjeet Patho and Swati Lekarai. Congratulations, people.
Yeah. Congratulations to both of you. Like Sanjeet and Swati, I probably remember them as well. They've been there for each and every event, interacting. They've been a phenomenal presence. Congrats to you.
Yeah, awesome. And moving on to the next challenge, build your Octocat challenge, and we have Juanpa here. Let's.
Oh my god!
Yes, this is the winning Octocat. Our team really loved this one. It looks so cool. I'm gonna take a look at it yourself. It has GitHub on one eye and the HackNITR on another eye. So we really loved this, and this would be the winner. Congratulations, Akash Srivatsava, for building this awesome Mona. Yeah.
Congratulations.
And I believe Hanpa will be. I'll be sending all the details about Hanpa, and he will be sending you a special gift for building this awesome Octocat.
Awesome.
Cool. And apart from this, we have a quick announcement about the hackathon winners. As mentioned before, we said that we would be releasing the winners for the hackathon next week, which is on 27. Don't worry about it. We are going through the judging process. We just needed a little bit time. That's why we took a week, so that we could actually go through the submissions and carefully review them and come up with the best winners. So we would be announcing the track winners next week, 27th of March. and we would be posting mails about the event updates and when and where and all the whereabouts. Don't worry about it. And regarding the DevFolio sponsored prizes, we had been in contact with the DevFolio team, and they just dropped this information that they would be announcing the winners after 2 weeks. And about Sashido, so there is a procedure to apply for this sponsored category by Shashiro, and all the details about this is in a resources channel of our HackNITR Discord server. So if you had missed it, don't worry about it. We'll make an announcement. Somebody from our team will make an announcement right away if you had missed the instructions to claim it. So basically, you have to mail them about a few details. Everything is mentioned detailed in the resources channel. Feel free to check out that. And yeah, I think officially we have come to an end. This is it. And I believe, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up this awesome event. And we are more than grateful to have Juan with us at the end of HackNITR 2.0. I would take a minute and tell thank you to every hacker and all of the speakers and core organizers or my fellow organizer who helped us pull this off. And I was really excited by the first time hackers who participated in hackathon and submitted these awesome hacks. As Juan told, you should participate in at least one hackathon throughout your student time. And hackathons have personally taught me a lot, and I hope it was a great session for you guys. Looking forward to meet you.
Exactly, Vedanta. We really wanted to make this hackathon as huge as possible, and we want to reach out to more people as much as possible, because we know that hackathons have helped us build our Lego pieces into bit by a bit, and that's why we want to give back to the community by organizing HackNITR 2.0. And we hope we have given our best. I was really amazed by the response, that actually most of them were actually first time hackers, and we got an amazing response from them. This was really heart fulfilling.
We had a showcase of projects before, and all the projects that we showcased were just phenomenal. The ideas, the execution, it was really great. So
yeah, and all those were built in like less than 36 hacks, apart from the ones which were submitted to old hacks. And still the increments were like really phenomenal and really amazing. And it's very hard to say goodbye, but part of the journey is end, people. So glad to have you here, Juan, for the closing ceremony. And goodbye and good night over here. I believe it's a good morning for Juan over there.
It is. Have a good one, folks. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you, Juan.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone,
thank you so
for
much.
making this a successful event. Bye.